Students, we are learning the issues of diversity, equity and inclusion. I told in preceding lecture also, it is one of the most important agenda almost all of organizations for retaining people or creation of good employer brand. Not only employer brand or retention, but thing is that maintaining human resources. This is very important. Keeping up moral at the same level. Diversity is important, equity inclusion important, inclusion is also equally important. Now try to understand, since it is the academic discussion and both the things I am trying to bring together. Theoretical aspect, where is the origin, why this is much important nowadays, and what way institutions are practicing this kind of issues. They are adopting this kind of issues. It's very important to know basically. If I am not having sound theoretical framework, what I mean to express, theoretical framework, that means what is the basics from where it is originated and how it is implementing basically. If your theoretical base is not sound, you can't implement in right way. This is very important. Remember, professionals, student, researcher. Again, I have told you that it is one of the big issues of research. So many people across the globe doing research this particular issue. What way you can bring the DEI in organizations? DEI has great advantage, and last slide, last lecture also I have seen diversity, equity, everything has unique advantage. Now today you see the approach, theoretical approach. What are the different key theories? Basically the three different theories we will discuss: social identity theory, embedded intergroup relations theory, structural integration theory, and also we will try to give the difference among the three different theories. Students, this is my very interesting topic, being a teacher of OB and HR. Always I try to bring OB and HR under one umbrella, and I am telling you that one successful HR must have sound knowledge of understanding OB, organizational behavior. That means what way structure, people, organizations interact with each other. If you are not understanding this part, you may not be the good HR. OB is not the outcome of HR. HR and OB both are interrelated. Both are the things to be continued simultaneously. It's not something which one is first, which one is later. It's not like that. Things to be continued, side by side. So try to understand exactly social integration theory and embedded intergroup relation theory and structural integration theory, and what kind of comparison. Now see the social identity theory, embedded intergroup relations theory, structural integration theory. Now see what is basically, it's very important so that we will be knowing exactly workplace dynamics and social interaction. Social identity theory, what is it exactly? That has been defined by Tajfel and Turner. I think that is very important. Why? Social integrity may be defined as the sum total of a person's social identifications, where the latter represent socially significant social categorizations internalized as aspects of the self-concept origin developed by Tajfel and Turner. Core concept: people categorize themselves into social groups shaping behavior interaction. That means, the people, those who are working in the organization, they have the unique identity, social identity. That has to be recognized. This is very important. So one of the conference I learned that how Indian people work at workplace, how South African people work at workplace. If you bring both the people at the same workplace, you can't treat the people same way, both the people, because South African people, they have the unique work style, and Indian people, they have the unique work style. So thing is that because that is the identity, social identity, and in India also and different parts of the country, east, west, north, south people, they have the unique social identity. I think that some uniqueness are there basically. That uniqueness is very important and that defines the behavior, and that if you are not understanding this behavior basically you can't interact. And I think HR professional has the great role to understand this kind of things. Students, remember, I think you may be finance manager, you may be the marketing manager, you may not be the good HR officials because you think it is very easy. I am telling you it is very tough to be a good HR professionals. Not only if you are having some soft skill, you know, if you feel that without studying HR, I can have good HR practices, I can adopt some kind of HR practice. Sorry, you can't do that unless you have sound knowledge about that root cause of HR, root cause of diversity, equity and inclusion. This is very important part for every people. So, identification, social identification is very important. Social identification creates the group, that the unique identity, uniqueness that has to be understood very clearly. Now, second theory is social identity, where we can apply what are the key identity of that particular things. It is individual understanding that they belong to a specific social groups. The sense of belongingness is influenced by emotion, values attached to group membership, as I dictated just. Forms of identity, social identity, identity shaped by shared meanings, commonalities from group membership, gender, race, role identity, identity based on social roles, personal identity, identity based on personal values, moral, uniqueness and difference individual from others. I think this is very important, you know, how do you know the social cluster in different way. This is some of example, what way you can catch the identity of different group of people within particular organization. Now see the social identity theory and its application. I think as I told that everything has to be studied very seriously, very meticulously. That is very important for every people. Why we are studying the social identity theory? Then social identity theory reduce in group bias, enhance belongingness, countering stereotypes. Reducing in group bias means here foster a shared organizational identity to minimize divisiveness, use cross-functional teams to break down silos. This is very important part, reducing in group bias, because we know the identity of the particular groups, enhancing belongingness, support employee resource groups for identity affirmation, train leaders to validate diversity identifies while promoting inclusions, counter stereotypes, implement mentorship programs across demographics, showcase diverse role models in leadership. This is very important part, students, what way you can apply social identity theory, that is in DEI. What exactly that means basically, you know, in organizations what way you can apply. And I think this is very important because different groups are there, we need some kind of mentorship program so that they can teach the, you know, different official what way can behave in different groups which you are in the organization. Now see the embedded intergroup relation theory. What is embedded interrelationship theory? EIR theory. EIR theory is a psychological and system theory that analyze how subgroups, teams, demographics and department interact within larger organizations, societal system. It emphasizes that no group exists in isolation, the dynamics are shaped by broader system structure, examines how subgroups, team, demographics interact within larger systems, emphasize interdependence and boundaries. Clayton Alpher, that is 1987, he defined this particular theory very interestingly. That theory is very much clear that how particular subgroups interact with the organization, this is very important part, and subgroups may on the basis of demographic, on the basis of team, and what way they can interact with the larger system. Now its application part is equally important, key concept is equally important, because you want to apply this kind of theory in organizations. Interdependence is possible. I think group is there, why group interact with the organizations, main larger groups. So interdependence is very important. Interdependence is nothing that is based on the coupling and the cohesiveness. Coupling is nothing, that is the interrelationship between the groups, and cohesive, that means the within particular group we need some kind of cohesiveness, we need some kind of great relationship. So interdependence is equally important. Groups rely on each other to functions. For example, HR depends on finance for budget approval, boundary clarity, members identity, who is in or out of their group. For example, engineer versus marketer, I think boundary clarity is very important part, recognize identity, non-members acknowledge the group existence, leadership recognize the DEI task force. This is some of application, key concept part. Cross group dynamics, groups influence each other, sales product teams collaborating on customer needs, role expectation, behavior is shaped by internal external expectation. For example, managers expected to mentor junior employees. Key concept here, that means better understanding of that particular concept. Now this theory, like as embedded intergroup relation theory, it is one of the most powerful theory basically, because that has aligned the group versus the main organization, different subgroups and their management, how it is fruitfully functioning. As you have seen, what kind of people I think that are to be in particular groups, like as marketer or engineer. Say for example, these are all the some of clash in what I said, that in certain IT firms. Sometimes it is very important that marketer people are saying that we are superior, engineer people are saying that we are designing some of good software, we are superior. So there is some tussle that has to be decided very clearly when he forms members identity is concerned. Role expectation, that must be clear, I think, when we define this particular part, embedded intergroup relation theory. Now see applications, what way you can apply this particular theory. ERIT analyze how identity groups interact within larger organizational system. Number 2, it views the workplace as a system of interdependent groups rather than just individuals. Individuals belongs to multiple overlapping groups such with distinct roles, expectation and power dynamics. DEI efforts must address systematic group level interaction, not just individual behavior attitudes. Recognize that inclusion requires structural and cultural change across group boundaries. Highlights, number 6 highlights how marginal groups can experience exclusion due to systematic group dynamics. 7, support initiatives that promote fair compensation, intergroup collaboration and structural equity. So, see, I think studying theory is not much important. What way you can apply this particular type of theory? That is very much clear that understanding group, and I just quote example, marginal group of people in the organization, they may frame one kind of groups, and some elite workers, they may form some kind of groups. Now see, what way you can interact both the things, both the cases. This is very important. I think marginalized people are also equally important for organizations, because they are the grassroots workers. They belong to a particular community. But some white collar people, they have also some kind of groups. The interaction of both the groups, I think, keep in mind there may not be any kind of divisive policy. I think that is the very important part of applications. Now, structural integration theory is very important. SIT theory. SIT theory means measure degree of integration of marginalized groups in organizations. Degree of integration of marginalized groups in organizations, that is basically the SIT theory. Structural integration theory in the field of DEI management explained that structural integration is simply a quantifiable matrix for measuring the degree of integration of women and other socio-economic, socio-ethnic minority groups into senior management position at the board decision making levels. Muller and Haas 1994. This is one of the great context of any organizations. I am telling you that it is one of the big agenda across the globe. Oftenly we say that how many women are in parliament, how many women in the board directors, how many women in the bank executives. I think this is very important. I have the great example, some of surveys are there basically that USA and some of westernized country, even their board members also, lack of equal representation of women. And it's not USA, across the globe you can find there is the problem of marginal groups, how do they integrate with the mainstream of the organizations. And structural integration is much important in that particular cases. Formation of group is not much important, but what is very important, what way that group integrate with each other. Degree of integration is very important things. Degree of integration, what kind of relationship among the group, what kind of relationship among women and socio-ethnic minority groups into senior management position at the board decision making levels. Now see students, key concept of structural integration theory, heterogeneity level. What is heterogeneity level? Measures the degree of heterogeneity diversity within organizations. Heterogeneity, homogeneity, I think heterogeneity means the dissimilarity, diversity. Okay, assess progress towards equal opportunities including affirmative actions. Cox, McCann, Kantop, Steedom and Forey, 2018. Exactly what you want to measure, which is much important, that key concept of structural integration theory, heterogeneity means what? Diversity, exactly this is the point I need to clarify. Equal opportunity here, equal opportunity. Degree of heterogeneity, diversity, levels of structural integrations, post-structural integrations, under representation of minority groups, good structural integration, fair representation. I think it is not defined anywhere exactly in private sector. Of course, in India, in government sector it is little bit clear exactly that what kind of role of equal representation from different diverse group in decision making process. And Indian IR system, I am telling you, is more brilliant, and they define that everything, that what way you can incorporate marginalized group in the particular decision making process. So structural integration, post structural integration, if the women participation, local staff participation in leadership roles is very rare, it's not acceptable. Good structural integration, fair representation and equal diverse groups, this is very important, equal diverse group in decision making roles. That means you just give the chair in boardroom when we frame some kind of decisions, keeping in mind that all are having the equal participation, which is structural integration. Now see, major challenge I am telling you, this is one of the big part, women minorities often face post structural integration due to male dominance and inequality, especially in developing countries. This is very common. I think that has to be clear. I think that women and minorities often face post structural. This is not the case of India, across I think that developing nations. Solution to improve integration. I think integration, women empowerment, we have different removable glass ceiling, some of invisible barriers, which is much often visible, a slight barrier, because our system that is defined, that what is the role of man, what is the traditional role of man and women. Although it does not have any value right now, but still people believe this kind of things, glass ceiling are there basically, people, I think that has to be removed. Training of marginalized groups, board of management opportunities, capacity building programs, fair appraisal process, this is very important students. Solution of integration, I think integration is the great seat theory is much important, what way you can integrate, what way you can ensure that equal participation of marginalized group in the decision making process. Now see practical implications of DEI, what way practically you can implement DEI, organizational policies, improve representation, bias mitigation. This is the three different practical implications of DEI, these particular cases, organizational policies, designing DEI initiative based on theories. See DEI, three words, we are continuously using, because diversity is not only important, equity is equally important, inclusion is important. Only diversity can't perform in particular organizations. You just bring the different group of people, equity is not there, inclusion is not there. What is the sense of diversity then? That has to be, proportionate. I think that diversity means equity, inclusion. That has to be applied every organization. Now, organizational policies designing DI initiative based on theories, improved representation, ensuring structural integration, assessing unconscious and through group awareness. Bias mitigation is also one of the great context. Comparing the three theories is much important for students, like a social identity theory, which area they are focusing, self-conception and group membership in social identity, and workplace interaction, its application, embedded intergroups, group dynamics in system, organizational intergroup relationship is very important, and structural integration, measuring diversity in leadership, equity in promotion representation. I think this is the broad brush picture of three different theories. Now see some of practical questions of this particular theory that you must be knowing exactly why seed theory, why exactly embedded theory, why identity theory, why I am teaching this kind of things. See, business theory or so-called organization behavior theory, it is not originated from business, I am telling you. It is, as I told earlier, that is the multidisciplinary. Some cases it is contrast also. I think that of course in future I will discuss that what is the role of biology in organization behavior, and I am planning to do this kind of things. Only understanding management psychology is not enough to define exactly the organizational behavior, but that this particular cases, some of questions that can help you when we talk about diversity in organizations, equity, inclusion is concerned. So that cases, what you must be knowing, that diversity is essence part, but diversity has some kind of problems, like the glass ceiling. If you know this thing, that means we need the different group of people, even though societal norms or some kind of traditional norm, that is why you are not hiring the diverse groups. This is very important. Suppose your organization is very new, you want to establish this particular organization in certain place. There is some kind of local pressure. Local people are demanding their appointment. So if you appoint local people maximum, you may lack the diversity. You are not bringing the people from some other parts of the world. So try to understand the different theories, what exactly embedded theory says. We need the different group of people, otherwise you may lose the customers, I am telling you. Very great refercation of absence of DI, you may lose the customers. Customers, underprivileged people, they are the big cluster of customers in India. They may say, these organizations, the elite organizations, they have the specific, these organizations only have the specific group of people. These organizations not following the DEI. This very important part, students, we remember this particular part. Now, you just develop this kind of things, try to understand this particular theory much dominant way, because diversity is not something like that, age, race, religious. Try to identify in particular nations what kind of people are there. You must have the complete knowledge about the demography. And if you have the complete knowledge about demography, then you can hire the people in right way. That creates the unique diversity that helps to bring the entire people representation in your organizations. What is the primary focus of embedded intergroup relation theory? What does structural integration theory aim to measure within organizations? How do the three DI theories differ in their approach to understanding workplace diversity and inclusions? These are the very big questions I am telling you, very well framed questions, very fantastic questions that you will have answer out of this discussion. Now, some of reference is very important, students. Again I am telling you, books very rare, but you need to see some of journal articles. You just click on DEI on Google or some good database, established database, censored database, you can find huge number of articles, 2025, 2024, since inception, so many things are there basically. That will help you to enhance your knowledge and theory, and you can adopt this kind of things. Students, at the last I can say you that representation from different groups, which is now we are considering, it is much important, and research says that if you integrate marginal groups very scientific way, that can enhance your performance, that can enhance your productivity. You just imagine in Western countries, without black people, you can't imagine the huge production. Without some migrant workers, it's not possible to have good productivity. We need everything, migration, we need ethnicity, we need the different subgroups people, ultimately that leads the excellent output of organizations. What is very important, we will have strong, much important, that strong employer branding, and you can retain the people, and it has observed that maximum cases the either it is drug attrition or I think any other type of attrition, that because of the problem of equity, problem of inclusion, and people are not happy with the organization. So thank you students for listening this particular lecture, and I hope that those are professionals, those are the students, and they will learn this thing, and they will develop some of new mechanism of what way we just develop diversity, equity and inclusions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.